it began as nothing more than a quiet hobby. The homeowner had always been fascinated with technology, especially drones. For him, it wasn't about showing off or invading anyone's privacy. It was about the sheer joy of seeing his neighborhood from above, capturing sunsets from angles that no ordinary camera could reach, and simply watching his little machine soar gracefully through the sky. In his own yard, during weekends and late evenings, he would practice flying, improving his skills, and recording landscapes that most people would never notice. But in a neighborhood controlled by a powerful and petty HOA, even the simplest joys can become the spark for conflict. It didn't take long for complaints to pile up. The president of the HOA, a woman notorious for strict enforcement of even the most trivial rules, declared that drones were unsafe and disruptive. Some neighbors whispered about their privacy, fearing that every flight was secretly capturing their backyards. Others didn't care one way or the other but chose silence, unwilling to stand against the HOA. The homeowner soon found himself painted as the villain, as though his harmless hobby posed a threat to the entire community. Letters from the HOA began arriving in his mailbox, each more aggressive than the last. They claimed he was in violation of rules, though no such rules actually existed in the bylaws. They threatened him with fines, promising legal action if he continued. It was an outrageous overreach. Still, he tried to reason with them. He reduced his flying hours, kept flights short, and avoided areas near houses. But nothing worked. The HOA was not interested in compromise. They wanted total control, and for them, banning drones outright became a matter of pride. By the end of the month, an official notice was issued. The HOA declared that all drone activity in the community was strictly prohibited. If anyone was caught flying, they would face escalating penalties until forced to stop. The homeowner was furious but also determined. He knew he was within his rights. City laws permitted drone use as long as it didn't interfere with air traffic and stayed below certain altitudes. He wasn't breaking any laws. The HOA's ban was nothing more than intimidation. Yet, fighting them head on would only drain time and money. He chose instead to wait, to bide his time, to prepare for the moment when their hypocrisy would reveal itself. And that moment came sooner than anyone could have predicted. Late one night, weeks after the ban, strange things began happening in the neighborhood. Garbage cans were overturned. Packages left on porches mysteriously vanished. A neighbor's car was broken into, tools stolen from the trunk. Soon, whispers spread of a burglar prowling the streets after dark. Fear crept in where pride once stood. The HOA that claimed to protect the neighborhood had no answers. Cameras missed the thief, locks weren't enough, and patrols cost too much to organize. The neighborhood was vulnerable and everyone knew it. The homeowner, watching silently, realized that his drones, banned and ridiculed, might just be the answer no one saw coming. As the weeks passed, the burglaries grew bolder. What began as small thefts escalated into full-scale intrusions. Packages weren't just disappearing. Entire storage sheds were being raided. Bicycles, power tools, even lawn equipment, gone overnight without a trace. Panic spread across the community, and the very same HOA that had once boasted about maintaining safety and order now stood humiliated. Their rules had done nothing to protect the residents, and their so-called leadership had no answers. The homeowners grew restless. Late-night conversations buzzed with frustration and fear. People spent hundreds of dollars installing new locks, motion sensor lights, even cameras. But the thief was always one step ahead. He seemed to know the blind spots, the quiet corners, and the moments when no one was watching. It was as though he had mapped the entire neighborhood. Meanwhile, the HOA, desperate to save face, issued long newsletters filled with empty promises, vague warnings, and suggestions that sounded more like excuses than solutions. The irony was almost poetic. The very same leaders who had banned drones for being unsafe now found themselves powerless in the face of real danger. The community had no shield, no defense, and no plan. But one man did. The homeowner, the same man who had been branded as a nuisance, quietly began preparing his answer. He never forgot the sting of those threatening letters, the embarrassment of being singled out for a harmless hobby. He knew this was his chance, not only to protect his neighbors, but to prove, once and for all, how foolish the HOA had been. In the cover of darkness, he brought out his drones again. Not for scenic flights or pretty sunsets this time, but for silent patrol. He upgraded the cameras, attached extra batteries for longer flights, and set up his laptop as a command center. Each night, as the neighborhood drifted into uneasy sleep, he launched his fleet. The hum of propellers was faint, barely noticeable, yet overhead the machines glided through the air like unseen guardians. For hours he studied the streets, mapping every corner, memorizing every shadow. At first, there was nothing unusual. A stray cat darting across the pavement, cars pulling into driveways, porch lights flickering on and off. But then came the patterns. Certain nights at the same hour, movement stirred where it shouldn't. A figure slipping between fences, crouching low, darting from one yard to the next. Always careful, always deliberate. The burglar was real and now caught in the unblinking eye of a drone. Still, the homeowner kept his discovery to himself. He knew the HOA would never admit they were wrong, not yet. He needed proof so undeniable that no one could argue, so powerful that the entire community would see the truth with their own eyes. Night after night, he tracked the thief, gathering footage, learning his routines. The burglar was clever, but the drones were patient. They could wait as long as it took. And when the time came, the evidence would speak louder than any HOA letter ever could. The community remained on edge, unaware that their salvation was already circling above them in the quiet night sky. The tension in the neighborhood reached its peak when one family woke up to find their entire garage ransacked. Tools, bicycles, even their lawnmower, everything was gone. The HOA called for an emergency meeting, promising action but delivering nothing new. Fear gripped every household, and the once proud association looked like a powerless committee drowning in its own rules. Meanwhile, the homeowner had everything he needed. For weeks, his drones had tracked the thief, capturing crystal clear footage of his movements. Every break-in, every stolen package, every hidden path through yards and fences, it was all recorded. He had not just glimpses, but full evidence. The thief's face, his clothing, even the car he used to escape. The drones had become an invisible detective, building a case stronger than any security camera on the ground could ever provide. One night, it all came to a climax. The thief returned bold as ever, moving with the same routine. But this time, the drones didn't just watch. They followed. Quietly, they tracked him from house to house, then all the way to the street where he parked his car. From the air, the homeowner recorded the license plate, the route, even the exact house the criminal retreated to outside the neighborhood. There was no doubt left. The footage was turned over to the police, and in a matter of days, the burglar was arrested. Stolen goods were recovered, families were reunited with their belongings, and the shadow of fear that had hung over the neighborhood finally lifted. But the story didn't end there, because the real twist came in the aftermath. When the truth spread that the drones had solved what locks, cameras, and even the HOA could not, the entire community turned their eyes on the very association that had banned them. The HOA had mocked him, fined him, threatened him. They had labeled drones as a danger. Yet when danger actually came, those same drones had become the savior. The hypocrisy was undeniable. Neighbors who once stayed silent now spoke up. They praised the homeowner, thanking him for his persistence, his creativity, and his refusal to bow down. The HOA tried to spin the story, but their authority was shattered. Their ban looked petty, their leadership weak, and their judgment fatally flawed. As for the homeowner, he didn't need to gloat. The results spoke louder than words. His footage had restored peace, his hobby had become a lifeline, and his patience had turned humiliation into triumph. The drones that once made him a target had now made him a hero. The neighborhood would never forget the irony. The very thing they tried to ban ended up being the only thing that truly protected them. And the lesson was clear. Sometimes the tools we fear the most are the ones that save us when nothing else can.